going to try to explain this riff in The Rising Sun by Buckethead, which is a little complicated, but with some practice it's not too bad. There are kind of two main parts to the riff that share a beginning but then have different endings. And also the riff uses 4 chord shapes that are usually only using 2 strings at a time, but with some very minor exceptions in how kind of each part ends. And for ease of explanation, I'm just going to put the chord shapes in the description instead of telling you what they are. Okay, so the very first thing you need to understand is what hybrid picking is if you don't know. It's using a pick, but also your fingers kind of at the same time. And in this riff, there's a certain pattern that gets repeated a lot. I'm going to demonstrate that pattern using the first chord shape in the riff. So each chord shape kind of has what I consider like the anchor, and in this case the first chord shape uses these 2 notes as kind of the anchor, and then there's an added high note that I use my pinky for, especially since this is such a huge stretch, and I suggest you do the same even if your pinky is not too strong, because later I think your ring finger comes into play, and it's good for how fast the riff is going to just have those 2 fingers ready to go. In any case, the pattern goes something like this. So you pluck with the middle finger the high note and then pull off to the second note, and then pick the low note on the second string and then conclude with another pluck of the second note. So altogether it's like this. Now, to continue the riff, that pattern just gets applied to the next 2 chord shapes, but in between each shape movement, you have to kind of lead in with a low pick of the shape that's coming up. So after the first shape, I would do this. I would pick the low note of the next chord shape, and then repeat the pattern, the picking pattern. And then same thing going from shape 2 to shape 3. I would do the picking pattern, pick the lead note, the lead bass note, and then do the pattern on the third shape. And that right there is the whole of the shared portion of both parts. And so from there, we do the 2 different endings. Before I move on though, if hybrid picking is new to you, I would just practice on like one shape over and over until it's comfortable. And then learn the rest. So the first ending, let's see. I think from the third shape, it actually just goes into the fourth shape the same way, where you pick the low note and then repeat the pattern. So and then from the fourth shape, it goes back up to the third shape in the same manner. So you would pick the bass note and then do the pattern. And then from here, it gets a little tricky, so let me think. Yeah, so after you do the picking pattern of the third shape, you immediately hammer with the pinky the high note again, and then pull it off immediately, and then pluck the second string on the 17th fret, which is kind of outside of the pattern. So pattern, hammer, pull, pluck. So from the 4th shape, and then go back into the shared beginning. And it's important here to kind of note what I'm doing with my right hand, because in order to make the riff clean, while I'm picking, I'm muting the low strings, obviously, but I'm also kind of along the way, like kind of muting the strings. I'm not entirely sure how I'm doing it because I don't think about it, but I could be muting again with my middle finger, something like that. But try to make it clean. Like, you don't want it to all ring out so much. So between right there, it's like there's like a half beat or whatever opportunity to mute it. And so I guess I take that opportunity to mute the strings, move. So you don't want to hear all the movement and stuff like that. So that's the first ending, shared part, and then it starts here. So now the second ending. Do the shared part again. And then after that 3rd shape picking pattern, there's an immediate pluck of the high note. And I guess it kind of does the pattern again. Wait, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, so do the pattern. And then it does this. Goes into the 4th shape. Pluck the bass note. Pick the bass note, pluck the second note, hammer the high note of that shape. Then go back to the 3rd shape and pluck the second note. Pick the bass note, pluck the high note, and quickly pluck this new note that I use my ring finger for. So let me do the whole thing. It's weird, but just keep in mind the shapes and then get this kind of pattern going when it's supposed to be. And that's the second ending. Again, don't move too much. Like, get the anchor down and let the pinky do the work, and get your pluck finger kind of in sync with that. And then also, I guess of note is my index finger, when it's barring the 3rd and 4th shape, or fretting for the 3rd and 4th shape, I'm not actually going past the 4th string with my finger. I'm just kind of adding this middle finger to fret the low note of the 4th shape, which kind of adds some efficiency to this whole thing. And that's about it. Here's the whole thing slowly. I'm going to do 78 BPM. Not perfect, but hey. Anyway, hope that helps. Good luck.